Very good evening to all. This is Masum from the Career Counseling Office. Thank you for joining us today's first webinar, Skill Up with DPS STS Alumni. This is going to be a series of webinars where we will have our alumni to talk and guide students regarding different professions. In today's session, we have Dr. Shruti Devaraj, who graduated from DPS in 2015. Shruti completed MBBS from Bangladesh Medical College and currently practicing as an intern at Bangladesh Medical College and Hospital. She is also the president of the DPS STS Alumni Association. And we have Ahnaf Rahman from class of 2018. Ahnaf has done his Bachelor of Information Technology from the University of Technology, Sydney in 2020. After completing the degree, Ahnaf joined as a technology graduate at Australia's largest bank in cybersecurity role. How cool is that? Most recently, he joined the cloud computing team. So you're really excited to listen to them. To start the session, I would like to request Honorable Principal and the Vice Principal, sir, for their opening keynotes. Sir, over to you, please.
Thank you, Masum. Welcome, everybody. Sorry, I'm not turning on the video due to poor internet connection. Hope I am audible.
Yes, sir, you are.
Yeah, it's so exciting for me to be here when our alumni coming here and conducting a career counseling webinar for our own students, which is why we have invited all the middle and the secondary students as well, because this is the age when you start forming opinion on various career options. Now we keep telling, when you choose a career, 4 things keep in mind: whether you're passionate about it, does that career add value to the society, does it give opportunities to grow, and finally, can you sustain it? Can you lead a happy life when you choose that career? So we have 2 alumni here who have already proven their worth by choosing a particular path which they are passionate about, and they have already contributing to the society. So what is the which is the best way, what best way you can see when you have horses here? I mean, when you hear from horses' mouth about their choices, their path, the path they chose to achieve their choices, and what are the challenges they faced, and how they could overcome all this. So without further ado, I would invite both Dr. Shruti and Ahnaf to share their inputs, and the audience are invited to ask questions, interact with them, learn from them, and get motivated from them. So I already see a question being posted in the Q&A box. Hopefully all these questions will be addressed. All the best, Dr. Shruti and Ahnaf, and we are really grateful to you for accepting our invite and taking this. Maybe you will set a trend or set a standard for the upcoming alumni webinar series, wherein the other alumni members who are already working will be joining us and sharing their inputs. Thank you, Masum and Ms. Tamina, for making this happen. And I'm sure this will help our students and parents to make best career choices. All the best.
Thank you, sir, for this warm welcoming notes. May I request our Vice Principal, sir, for a quick, short opening key and the notes, please.
Thank you, Masum. Good evening, all of you. It's a very proud moment for all of us that our alumni is giving back to the school. It's one of the proudest moments I can say any school can ever have it. We have formed our alumni association, and the association president itself has taken the initiative to discuss the career options with our students. It's the best way to give back to the school. And I take this opportunity to congratulate both of them and extend my thanks for taking their precious time to interact with our children. I know all of you are waiting to listen to them. So without much delay, my all the best wishes to the young speakers of the day. And also, I request all the audience, our children, to take the best use of this webinar, and let's look forward for such more seminars to come in. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for these warm welcome and insightful notes. Now, let me welcome Ahnaf and Dr. Shruti Devaraj to share how their professional life look like, including the cheerful and the challenging ones, and to talk about preparation and necessary requirements for the specific professional field, and how their journey was in DPS STS school, and if they have any advice for their juniors. So let's start with Ahnaf. Ahnaf, over to you, please.
Awesome. No, thank you so much. So firstly, hi everyone. So my name is Ahnaf. Thank you again for the very lovely introduction there. It's really nice to meet you all, and thanks again for joining this presentation. I just wanted to give a quick thank you as well to the wider community at DPS, including the principal as well, and all the organizing committee for sort of putting these events out for us. I think it's very nice for the alumni to be kind of learning from some of our experiences. So it's very welcomed. Muslim sir, I'll just like to quickly check whether the screen is sharing correctly at the moment.
Yes, we can see that. Please.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So yeah, today's webinar is just a quick sort of overview about a career in technology, a field which I'm very passionate about and something that I've been working at as a full-time graduate for the past 10 months now. So it's been very exciting, and I just wanted to share that with you. I'd like to make this webinar as interactive as possible. So throughout this presentation, there'll be elements for you to contribute in the group chat or even ask questions. So feel free to go ahead and do so. I'll be very welcomed. We'll just keep moving on. So again, just another hello. Really nice to meet you all. The first image there, it just kind of just a nod to who I was in DPS. So I studied at DPS between grade 6 and grade 9 a couple of years ago now. In that particular picture, you can see me. I'm looking down at this little science project, and that was around one of my first sort of experiences with working with technology, working with science. And I think looking back 10 years, it's been a long time, and it's one of those things that's really helped me sort of grow. And it's just those days of interest, I guess. So it's been very fun. DPS has some really good avenues for you to learn and contribute. So I'm very thankful for that. During that time as well, when I was in DPS, my mom was also a teacher. She was the head teacher of English. You may know her as Sonia ma'am. So it's great to be kind of part of that wider community as well, many years now down the road. The second picture, so I moved to Australia not long ago, back in 2015, in the wonderful city of Sydney, in which I'm currently sharing a presentation at the moment. It is 1 a.m., so it's another part of the world, but it is, again, really nice to kind of be part of this webinar. Third image there, UTS. So I studied a Bachelor of Information Technology from UTS, the University of Technology, Sydney. Really great degree there. Got to do 2 internships where I got to work as both a software developer and later on more of a sort of business analyst role. So it gives you a really good idea of what the information technology world has there to offer. So yeah, very exciting. Currently, I'm working at Australia's largest bank. It's called the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. So for the first 9 months, I worked in a cybersecurity role, of which I will explain a little bit more. And currently, I'm working in a cloud computing role. So again, very exciting, a lot of new things happening. Brings us to our first interactive piece. So one thing I would like to I have a question for you is, what was your dream job when you were about 10 years old? Can you remember? For me, the dream job that I had was I always wanted to be an automotive designer. So when I was a kid, I was always drawing cars, different shapes, colors. I always wanted to be something like that. So what was your dream job? Feel free to include it in the chat box below so others can maybe have an idea, or even just think about it in your head if you're not comfortable. But yeah, just an intro into information technology. The first most important aspect of it is that tech is everywhere. So we're on a Zoom call today. We use technology. We're using Facebook, social media. They all use different forms of technology. So it's a very diverse field. There's a lot happening. So it's a good area to kind of be in. So to a beginner, how would I explain technology or IT? I usually use something called a car analogy. So a car has many moving parts. So it has its doors, it has the wheels, the tires, the steering wheel. Information technology can be thought of as a car. It has it's a big umbrella under which there are many moving parts. So cybersecurity, cloud computing, these all fall under the umbrella of information technology, and they all play a part in playing the sort of bigger role of being IT in a big company or even like a social media company, for example, it plays a wider role. So that's a very interesting way to think about it. Currently, there's also a very big skill shortage in the world of information technology. So at the place that I'm working in right now, a lot of the core skills such as development, as well as the business analyst roles, these are all outsourced to countries like India, Philippines. So, why not? Could we not have in the future where there's opportunities for us to be working in those companies without having to go to remote resources to ask for feedback and different ideas as well. So that's definitely one thing. Because of the skill shortage, that also does mean that whoever's working in technology right now, they have a pretty big bargaining power. So there's a lot of flexibility for us to work. So for instance, we get to be very flexible with the work hours that we choose. And we get to have a lot of diversity in our role. So we're not really stuck to one particular role, which I think is really good. Another really important aspect is that it is a very young people field. So there's a lot of young people involved in IT, a lot of graduate and internship programs, which make it really nice for someone who's new to the workplace to kind of get used to it and start getting a lot more experience and that. Another really big important consideration is that you don't need a lot of experience to start in IT. A lot of people are fresh from university, and you don't need the 5-year sort of big build up in a lot of qualifications to excel here. You just need to be open to learning and have a growth mindset. And I think it's very easy to succeed in this field. So yeah, moving on, I wanted to share this slide. This shows the DESI power in IT at the moment. So this picture is very powerful. As you can see, there's a lot of people who look like us. They're from our region, the subcontinental area. And they're making it big, the CEOs of Google, Microsoft, Adobe. And if you've been following the news lately, the new CEO of Twitter as well is from our area. So it just goes to show that it's not just a potential for us to be in the entry-level positions, but there is potential for us to go all the way to the top, as long as we're dedicated to the work that we do and that we're very passionate about what we do as well. So this serves as a really good inspiration, I think. And I think it's a really good one to kind of keep in front of us for the future, and information technology is looking good. A role in cybersecurity. So I really like this image. The reason is because there's sometimes a big misconception about cybersecurity, information technology, and what it all means. One of the first misconceptions is that everybody thinks that I'm a hacker. Unfortunately, no. As much as I would like to be, I'm not a hacker, and neither is everybody that works in IT. So hacking is one potential role in the world of cybersecurity. It's called a penetration tester, where they get to test out the vulnerabilities in a system. But unfortunately, not everybody is. Another misconception is that you have to be very technical to work in IT or in cybersecurity. That's also not true. You don't need to necessarily have coding skills or very technical skills. You just need to be able to learn how to use a computer and be able to open to learning new skills along the way. So what do I actually do, or what did I do when I was in cybersecurity? So I was in a test engineering role. A test engineering role is quite simple. It's, if you think about it, if a developer has built a software, a tester would just go ahead and test the vulnerabilities in that particular piece of software. So there are 3 processes involved. The first process is actually understanding the problem in hand. So what is the software that we'll be working on? The second stage is actually creating certain test scenarios. So according to the requirements, we would need to have on paper written out that this is what is required and this is what we hope to achieve. Those are called acceptance criteria. And the third step is actually executing the tests. So running those tests and making sure that they either pass or fail. If they either pass or fail, we would raise them as bugs if they fail. And we would accordingly build something called a test completion report. A test completion report just basically summarizes whether that piece of software is ready to go out into the market or not. So it's very simple. It's a very fun place to be. I've really enjoyed working in cybersecurity. I think it's a very sort of diverse field. There's a lot of things to do. Some of the roles that are available in cybersecurity include, such as the ones that I mentioned, penetration tester. You have your just a standard tester. We call them functional testers. We also have business analysts, as well as solutions architecture, as well as other sort of various analyst roles as well within cybersecurity. So a mix of technical and non-technical, which is really good. A typical day in my life. I get this question a lot, both in university as well as when I'm talking to my friends. So what do I actually do? So the morning starts off very well for us. Currently, because of the COVID situation, we have the flexibility and option to be working from home, which I think is a super big privilege and benefit. So the days that I'm working from home, I get to wake up almost 5 minutes before work starts, which is usually at 9 a.m. Other days when I'm going to the office, that's usually my commute time, usually using the train to get to the office. The second picture over there, the coffee culture. So there's a big coffee culture here in Sydney and in the corporate world. That's usually a great time for us to kind of network with our team, just say hello to everybody. And it's just a nice way for us to kind of get started into the morning without having too many serious aspects. Third picture over there, you can see someone looking through all the emails. That does take up a bulk of our day. We are usually going through a lot of emails, contents, just standard work, you could say, and they usually do involve the computer there. The fourth image, everybody having lunch. Probably the most favorite part of my day. When in the office, it's really great. We get to have all the other graduates and all the young people around. So it's very rare that you're having lunch by yourself. You're in that community environment, so it's really good fun. The fifth image, meetings. Meetings make up a big part of our day. It's not just because it's a way for us to kind of discuss things, but it's also a way for us to kind of come together, discuss problems, solutions, and potential ways to kind of go about our day. So meetings do make up a big part. So it's a really good skill to have as to taking minutes, meeting notes during the meetings, as well as standard meeting etiquette. I think it's very important. Our last picture, of course, the commute back. Usually the work is 9 to 5 p.m. For about 5 days a week, so full-time hours. But yeah, as you can see, very sad in that image because, if you have so much fun in the day, usually coming back home makes you kind of a little bit sad. But the good thing is we get to start that cycle all over again. And it's just a really good work environment to be in. I've thoroughly enjoyed the last 10 months in my role, and I'm looking forward to what the next year and next couple of months have in store for me. Moving on, the second interactive piece. So name one skill you wish to develop from a professional experience. So again, if you're comfortable, feel free to put this into the chat box as well. When I mean one skill, I mean things, think of qualities such as, leadership, communication. Those are some of the first things that I wanted to learn when I got into my professional role. Something that I really wanted to learn was how to take notes properly. I think sometimes usually when we're in a meeting or we have a webinar, we just write down everything. So it's very important for us to know what to note down, especially in a bullet point format. Those usually come in super handy. So yeah, think about one skill that you like to develop from professional experience and maybe how that could help you down your path. So feel free to use the chat box for this particular activity. Some key takeaways. So over here, I would like to kind of share with you some of the takeaways and key things that I've learned from my experiences so far. So over here in this slide, you can see that I've written down 3 words: care, courage, and commitment. So in fact, I use these particular words because these are the actual values that my company, Commonwealth Bank of Australia, operates by. So these are the 3 main ones that we are also suggested by our colleagues to kind of think about on our daily basis. So care, what do I mean by care? So care means taking awareness and responsibility of the work that you do. So if you're careful about the work that you do and you know that it will make a real difference to your customers, to your colleagues, you'll automatically make sure that the output and the quality of your work is really, really high. So it's very important that we take care in the work that we do every day. That doesn't have to be in a professional work experience. It could be you at university or you at school. The assignment that you're doing or the submission that you're making. If you take care in that, then you can always assume that your final quality would be good. Courage. Courage is an interesting one because it's something that we're not naturally gifted with once we come out of uni, and it's not something that you can always teach. So when I mean courage, I mean instances where you have an option to speak up when things are not always going the way that you want it to. Or maybe you're in a meeting and you have a lot of senior managers with you, but you are just maybe an intern or a graduate. When do you take that step to kind of speak up and make your point heard? I think that takes a lot of courage. And I encourage you as well, during your journey in terms of learning as well as contributing to, be courageous, say yes to opportunities, and I think that will take you a really long way to getting noticed by your peers and by your managers as well. So it's a really good one to have. Last one, commitment. As you can see in the picture, he's there. he has his commitments sorted. So he's making his food, he's doing work at the same time. Same goes for us, when we're doing our work, we need to be committed. We need to know 100% that the work that we're doing, we're putting our full focus in, and that we can get, again, goes back to the care in our work. It has to be of a very high quality. So commitment, super important in the work that we do, and it really does come down to the final output and the value that we add to the company and the work that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. Some considerations. I wanted to add this slide in because it's not all positives when you work in the field of IT and cybersecurity. There are definitely considerations that you need to take in place before studying, potentially going down this route, or even when you're in the job itself. So I just wanted to go through 3 main ones that I think should be highlighted and wanted to discuss these with you. So the first one is the people person aspect. So in IT, cybersecurity, especially in the work that we do in a corporate environment, there is a lot of people involved. And they will include your managers, they will also include your customers. So it's very important to be a good people person, so you can communicate well, so you can be a leader to them as well. So potentially, if you're not someone who is naturally an extrovert, or who doesn't like public speaking, or likes to go ahead and be courageous at times, for example, that's something to consider, and maybe that's something to work on as well before you start going into that role, into that field. So consider that this will be a people based role, and you will have to communicate on a day-to-day basis, and sometimes you may have to be very courageous in the type of communications that you do. So that's something to keep in mind. The second one, always upskilling. So by any chance, if you've ever thought that the degree that you have in university, those skills and those experiences will carry you through the entirety of your career, you would be very wrong. Especially in information technology, it's all about continuous learning. At work, we have things like training modules and certifications, and these are to help us to always stay updated to the work that we're doing. And it's very important that we are always open to learning and have an open growth mindset. So definitely think in your head that if you do join the IT field, you will also always be upskilling, always learning a new coding language, for example, or learning a new platform or a tool. So this is something that I think we have to all keep in mind. Third one, making decisions. And this one does really come down to your nerve. Are you someone that is risk tolerant, for example? Can you identify risks? Can you also be trusted to make a decision that will impact the team and not just yourself? So it's very important that you are a good decision maker when you are working in the realm of IT. And decisions don't only happen at the managerial level. It does happen to people like us, graduates and entry-level positions. So definitely keep in mind that you will have to be a swift, good decision maker when you do work in a team environment and in corporate environments such as IT. Cybersecurity tips. So there would not be a cybersecurity webinar without me giving you some cybersecurity tips. So I'd like to share some of my key takeaways from my last 9 months in a cybersecurity role. So the first one, passwords, very important. Passwords are your gateway to some of your information, as well as some of the platforms that we use, like Facebook, Gmail, all that sort of platforms all use passwords. So it's very important that you update your passwords and don't reuse passwords. It's also important that you don't use very specific phrases like your name or your date of birth or your address. These things, do not repeat them in your password, because it's very easily obtainable, and is very easy to guess as well. Some of the key tips to go around this is by using a password manager, for example. That way they can store your information in a safe place, and if you need to retrieve a password, you can always do so. Another one is to always update your password. So on a regular basis, maybe 6 or 12 months, set yourself a reminder that you need to change the password to some of your key accounts, and that will definitely keep your account very, very safe. Second one, updating your systems. It's a no-brainer. It's very easy to do. So it might be just yourself sitting on a very old version of an Android or a Apple iOS platform. So go ahead, check your App Store, Play Store, and your settings to make sure that you're on the most updated system, because software companies bring out the most latest version of their softwares so that they can keep the security fixes in place. So it's a very simple thing to do. You just go ahead and check your systems, making sure that they're on the latest version. So they're always the most updated version for the securities, at least. Third one, backing up your files. So whether it's images or documents, for example, always keep a backup copy. The easiest way I do this is by keeping a secondary hard drive. So whatever I have, I duplicate it onto a secondary hard drive. Some other ways to go around this as well is that, for example, if you have a cloud account like a Google Drive or a Dropbox, you can duplicate all your documents onto those platforms as well. And you can also access them everywhere. So you can go to Australia or Bangladesh, and you can always access your files without you having to carry a physical hard drive, for example. So I think that's a really cool benefit of backing up your documents. So those are some of the security tips I had. Feel free to share any of your ones that you might have in the chat box as well. Next steps. I would like to leave you with a couple of assignments, you could say, in the next few days and weeks. So the first one I've listed up on the screen is a couple of these free online resources that you can always refer to gain information about information technology, cybersecurity, and just general knowledge of the IT space. So what you would need to do is, for example, if you go to Udemy, you can create a free account, and then you can also search up any sort of courses. So if you want to learn about programming in Python language, you can search that into the search box and you will find modules around that. As a result, you can get certifications, you can get trainings in these sorts of areas, and you can use this to your advantage as well. Some of the other tips as well, speak to your family and friends. They can, especially if they're working in the field of IT and if they're working in the corporate environment, they can give you first-hand knowledge about what they have learned and some of their key takeaways. As well as taking advice from teachers at school and uni. So for example, we have Masum Sir on the call, his career counselor. Reach out to them, reach out to your computer science teacher or your business subject teacher, and they will be able to give you advice as to what are the career pathways and what are some of the opportunities available if you do study any of these subjects. That brings us to the end of the presentation. So thank you again very much for your time and effort in organizing these events as well as listening. And hopefully you had a chance to kind of interact and have a go at some of those interactive pieces there. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat box here as well. I'm more than happy to answer anything. On the right-hand side of the screen, I've included my LinkedIn profile. So if you have a mobile device and if you scan that QR code, it'll bring you straight to my LinkedIn page, and you can connect with me if you'd like, and drop me any questions in the future if you need any advice or if you want any second thoughts. But then again, thank you again for all your efforts, as well as the teachers and the association at DPS for allowing me this opportunity to speak and share some of my thoughts. With that, back to you, Masum sir.
Great, Ahnaf. Thank you for these wonderful insights. I'm sure that will help to all of us. Now, audience, as Ahnaf said, if you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat box. Also, at the end of the session, we will have 2 to 3 minutes where you can, probably unmute yourself and ask questions directly. We'll take the answer and question and answer that accordingly. So now let us hear Dr. Shruti. Shruti, over to you, please.
Hi, everyone. Very good evening to principal, vice principal, teachers, and alumni. Can you guys see me? Or is it the...
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. So I'm Shruti Devaraj. I'm an intern doctor at Bangladesh Medical College and Hospital. So firstly, I want to focus on what you need to do when you're back in school. First things first, always aim high. If you're determined to become a doctor yourself, you will get through the hardest times as well. For example, me, myself, I have always wanted to be a doctor since I was a kid, though I was like an average student back in school and did get grades according to my standards, but my determination towards the goal is what actually made me finish medical without having to give any repeat exams. So if you're up for it, you should actually go for it. And when you're in grade 8, when you have to select your subject, you should choose subjects accordingly. For example, don't mix commerce and science together, because if you're sure you want to be a doctor, then you should only select science-based subjects, like for example, physics, chemistry, bio, English, math, that's good to go. And if you want computer, then, if it interests you or any other subject, then it's fine. And once in your A levels, I had physics, chemistry, bio, and math. But after I was done with my AS, I dropped math because I realized that you wouldn't need math for your MBBS entrance exam. And plus, I realized that physics, chemistry, bio, I wouldn't be able to focus on them properly if I had math, because you need a lot of time doing math. And if you're a Bangladeshi student who wants to apply medical here, then you need to undergo an online exam, which you can either give in English or Bangla. And the total marks for the exam is 100, and it's an MCQ-based exam. The drawback of this exam is that the Cambridge students like us, we always have concept-based learning. But this exam is a little factual-based, so you might have to memorize a lot of things. And you do get a lot of time because once you're done with your A-levels around June, and this exam usually takes place around September or October. So you have like a month or two. So if you're aiming for that entrance, so there is this part called general knowledge it's about 15 marks. So I would actually suggest you guys to start reading newspapers and learning histories of Bangladesh already, because that will be of great help later on. And the mark scheme, that is, the biology consists around 30 marks, and then chemistry is around 25 marks. Physics is about 20, and English is 15, and general knowledge is again around 10. And you will need to get a minimum of 40 marks in order to pass the MCQ exam. And according to the ranking, that's how you can enroll into universities. For example, you're in the first 1,000 that you will be able to enter into the public universities, like, for example, Dhaka University and other public universities. If you're into the first 10,000 ranking, then you might be able to get into the good private universities like Bangladesh Medical, Jaharul Islam, Dhaka National Medical College, and few others. And while choosing college, I would request you to make sure you check the teacher turnout rate. That is, the number of teachers joining and the number of teachers leaving. Because in medical, the most important thing is actually having experienced teachers. So if you see a college has a lot of teacher turnout rate, then that might not be the right choice. So make sure you check that out. And there's another thing you need to check is the college has its own hospital. That is, if you do not have your own hospital, there will be less exposure. You won't be able to, handle patients while having your classes, and the clinical experience lowers down to around 10% if you don't have your own hospital from your college, that is. And best thing about being a doctor is that you'll be able to serve the community with your own knowledge. But first year of medical obviously wasn't bed of roses. You will have to give exams every day, and they used to call it items, and that's basically our normal class test. And you need to get around 60 marks for every single Viva exam you attend. And if you do not finish all your items that's conducted every day, you won't be able to sit for your terms. And if you don't finish your terms, you won't be able to sit for your board exams. So it's a little complicated in first year, but once you get the catch of it, I think you'll be able to crack it easily. And once you start your work life, that is, after you're done with your MBBS, the transition from being a student to being a doctor, practically, it's pretty big, I would say, because in educational phase, you will always have teachers, you have people guiding you with everything. But once you start your work life, that's when you realize you wouldn't have any guidelines, and you're the only one working towards your goal alone. But you get to learn a lot, like, let it be the teachers or your staff members or your colleagues, you will actually start realizing how the real world is. So, well, yeah. So, and another thing I wanted to suggest is once you're done with your medical and once you start practicing, a lot of us try to prove ourselves in the first 6 months of work life, because they think if you start proving in the beginning and by taking a lot of workload, you might be fine or you might get used to it. But that's not true in medical. Like, for example, if you're not being able to treat 10 patients completely, then you shouldn't be trying to treat 100 patients incompletely, because it's actually always better to treat 10 people completely, right? So don't overwork yourself, because if you keep overworking yourself, at one point you will realize that you don't get any time to yourself, and like the time you have in your life, you have mismanaged it and all that. So make sure you don't overwork yourself, and balancing life is very important. And this is something I've learned from my mom. Like, she's been working since I was a kid, and I've always accompanied her to her work, let it be her work or her dedication towards taking care of us. She has always done it so effortlessly. So make sure to take time out of your day-to-day life. Make sure you have your extracurriculars going on with your work life, so that you don't regret it at the end. And at times, like for example, right now in internship, I have to work around 20 hours or 24 hours, sometimes on call. And I don't really regret it, because I get immediate feedbacks from my patients. For example, a patient who has been suffering from throat ache and fever for a few days and gets better or gets relieved from pain after a dose of antibiotic I have suggested. So that actually gives me the ultimate happiness. So, and if you guys have any questions, you can knock me or you can ask the management, and that's all I would like to say. Thank you so much for your patience, guys.
Thank you, Shruti. That was really great, insightful. And I can see some questions in the Q&A. I also see that Shruti has already answered some questions. Couple of questions.
Masum, what you can do,
Yeah.
see, some of them cannot read the chat. So you can read out the question and they can answer orally. Though they have already answered, it's good to re-answer them to all so that everybody can hear from you.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So question was for Dr. Shruti that, what sort of entrance exam preparation that student should have, comparing the, Cambridge syllabus and the national curricular syllabus. What's your suggestion on that, Shruti?
Okay, so there are two ways you can study for your entrance exam. One is there are a lot of online-based coachings, which you could enroll just after your A-levels. And I would actually suggest you to take English instead of Bangla, because it will be a little difficult for us if the entrance exam is in Bangla. And if you think that you cover the syllabus according, the syllabus is based on SSC and HSC, so the syllabus pattern is the same, but you can actually study it alone as well, but you need a study partner. That's a main thing in medical. So let it be the entrance, let it be the exams in medical, you will always need a study partner to study for the exams.
Great, thank you. I hope that answers the question. Ahnaf, one question for you is, how important is to memorize the course or understand the course in order to become a software engineer?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think Al Bob had asked that question. I was just in the middle of typing that out, so it's very timely. What I would firstly recommend is memorizing is never recommended, I think, especially when it comes to code. It is always evolving. So if you were to kind of memorize a certain code or like a language, it wouldn't work out in the long term. So what I would recommend is that as part of your degree, I'm not sure if you're currently in school or uni, but if you do go ahead to study in university, the courses will be designed in a way where you will be able to learn it and you'll be able to also apply it. So there's only so much you can learn in theory. Once you actually go ahead and actually apply that to either build a system or update a particular software, then you will be able to understand how the code works, how it's structured, what the syntax is, and all that. So I would, again, not go ahead and try memorizing anything. The good place to start would be some of those resources that I had shared on the slide previously. So LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, Udemy, these go through step by step in terms of a module format as to what you need to do from the beginning, all the way from a beginner till you become an advanced sort of engineer. So I think try that out. I think that would be a really good way for you to kind of get your hands dirty and just kind of set your foot into the journey of being a software engineer. But if you are going down that path, it's very recommended. It's a very in-demand job at the moment for anyone to have technical skills. So yeah, definitely give that a go, and feel free to reach out if you have any further questions around that.
Great, thank you, Hanav, for that. Shruti, one question to you is, what are the how to be a good doctor, and what are the subjects to focus on? Obviously it's understandable that biochemistry, but according to you, what are the most important subjects for for a student who study medicine?
I would say biology mainly. Like for the entrance exam, you need physics, chemistry, but I haven't really applied physics, chemistry anywhere in medical.
I see. I don't know if I have missed any questions. So Ahnav and Shruti, if you see questions that hasn't been answered, please feel free to do so. One question is, this is for Ahnav. According to you, which country would be the best to study technology, and which country's technology is the best, basically? So what's your opinion, Ahnav, on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think someone had asked that question once. So thanks again for asking that one. The way I find it right now is technology is a global industry. So there's no particular country, and it's not really binded to any particular sort of software or platform. What I can share is what's happening currently in Sydney and in Australia. So I'm currently working in a bank. In a bank, you would probably assume financial services to be the primary sort of employer, but it's actually not the case. At Commonwealth Bank at the moment, there is a huge focus on employing engineers rather than finance or accounting people, for instance. So it just goes to show that there's a lot of opportunities, and that banking and these industries are going online. To answer your question as to which countries are the best, I think your career counselor would probably be able to ask that one. But of course, if you're seeking higher education, US, Canada always turns out to be some of the main picks. Australia is sometimes overlooked. And in that case, I would also recommend try out Australia, try out Sydney, Melbourne. These are some really great opportunities. A lot of our big companies are headquartered in these two cities, Sydney and Melbourne. So maybe try out your hand at one of these, and see how you go. But I think your career counselor could probably advise us to maybe your further education, higher education, which country would probably be the most suited.
Thank you, Ahnav, for that. Yeah, completely agree. As Ahnav said, there are multiple countries that are doing really great in the technology, especially if we talk about Germany. For example, the Denmark and Norway, for example. Norway is doing deep research on the lithium batteries and what can be, technology is a big field. There could be a lot of things you can implement, but that is long discussion. So so obviously, as I said, as Ahnav said, Australia, US, UK also, very good in research to taking things forward. So yeah, and another question that we have for Ahnav. Do we need to learn fast typing for programming?
Very interesting question again, Albob. In my opinion, the short answer would be no, but I think a funny answer would be, it would be great if you got a mechanical keyboard, because that would sound very satisfying. I remember at an internship I was doing, I got this like big mechanical keyboard. It had the RGB lights and everything, but I annoyed my coworkers so much because it was very loud. And if you type very fast, it makes a very clickety clackety, very loud noise. So no, you don't need to type fast or anything like that. But yeah, it would be nice if you have a nice keyboard, because that does make your long-term use very, very, very helpful, because you are at work usually in front of a computer between 9 and 5. So if you have good tech resources, that will be very good. So a good mouse, an ergonomic mouse would be good. Ergonomic chairs if you're working from home. A good monitor setup, preferably a dual monitor, would be very good. So I think a setup is a very important thing to consider if you're working in the IT field, rather than whether we can type fast, because that's something that you can always learn. So I would say, yeah, focus on your what technology you currently use, and your setup at home is a good one. It's a good place to start. Masum, sorry, before we go into the next question, I know there was some questions previously submitted in the forms document. I'm just wondering if you may need to refer to that if there's any questions we could possibly answer from there as well.
Yep, can do so. Let me see if I have missed anything. Yeah. So one thing that someone just commented that he wants to be is to join in the army. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Good to hear that. In order for you to join the army, obviously, yeah, right after A level, you have to prepare for the entrance exam. So feel free to see us in the career counseling office for the detailed sort of guidelines. Ahnaf, do you want to read out any questions that to you which I haven't covered, and you probably perhaps would like to convey to all the audience?
Not a specific question. I did notice that there were a few in the chat box that I may have not had a chance to kind of go over yet, but I do aim to kind of go through that chat history and see if there's anything else I could potentially
No,
answer.
the chat box is fine, Ahnaf. I have actually covered the chat box. So there is two boxes. One is Q&A, one is chat box. So I see in the Q&A, whatever questions was there, I actually asked you, but let me double check if there is any new questions. So Samyun asked, if I want to study software engineer, then what subjects will I have to choose in O-level? So yeah, I think Samyun, you can choose definitely maths, physics, along with the chemistry, and obviously take other subjects as per your interests. Arnab, do you have any comments on that?
I'm not currently sure what the subjects in O-level are offered at the moment, but if there is a version of computer science or sort of IT related subjects, those would give you a very good foundations. The reason I say that is because if you do study software engineering in your first year of university, the first 6 to 8 months is usually what you would study in the last year of your high school. So as long as you have that sort of a background, it gives you a really good foundation when you start uni and when you start in those types of subjects. So yeah, definitely, maybe again, that's a question for the career counselor as well. What sort of subjects are available in the sort of technology field? And if computer science is one of them, 100% recommend you give that a crack.
Great, Arnav. Just to clarify, students, in order for you to explore in the engineering field, obviously the school offers IT in IGCSE and as well as in A level along with CS. So, but these subjects are not mandatory for you to take in order to become an engineer. Maths and physics, these are the subjects that you must focus on if someone is willing to explore that in the engineering field in Bangladesh, in country, or especially in the Asian country. Then chemistry is also recommended along with your maths and physics. However, many countries like US, Australia, Canada, UK, the main prerequisite subject would be maths and physics. And obviously, as Ahnav said, if you take those subjects in your A-level and O-level and obviously IGCSE and A-level, obviously that would great help. Sometimes, the university, for example, if a student studied CS in A-level, once the university see the course structure that you have covered, they may waive you some credit in the first semester. So which means, you can save a lot of money and time. These subject is not mandatory for you to take in IGCSE and A-level. Hope that answers. Hello, Ahnaf sir. I have question that how do I understand the codes instead of memorizing? So Ahnaf, to you, please.
Hi, Sunon. I'm very honored that you call me sir, but no, go ahead, just call me Arnaf. It's all good. In terms of memorizing code, again, it goes back to the earlier question that I think was presented around the similar topic. Again, memorization is not very much recommended at all. It's good to have a basic understanding of coding. Again, I would recommend those sorts of platforms like Udemy, Coursera to get a very basic understanding of how those syntaxes and code works. Code is essentially like a language. So, for example, in a language, you can't just go straight into making a public speaking speech. You have to go ahead and learn the letters. So, in a similar way, those sorts of courses will teach you those ropes as to what is the grammar involved, what is the syntax involved. Because if you don't know the basics, there's no point in memorizing because you won't be able to apply it. And then again, practice makes perfect. So try and build a portfolio. Try to build a website if you can. The recommended languages for those are HTML, CSS. If you want more advanced ones, you have Angular, React, JS as well. If you look at these types of languages online on those platforms, then you'll have a very good understanding as to how you can potentially apply those. My recommendation is try to make a website from scratch. If you can, use GitHub. GitHub is a repository for putting your code. And once you're done developing it on your local computer, you can push it up to GitHub, and then you can also run that sort of website directly from your computer. So that should be a very cool, exciting project, Sunan. And hopefully, if I get to meet you next time, I'll ask you how your website is going. But I think that's a good place to start there.
Thank you, Arnav, again. One question, one comment actually. As per my information, I know China has one of the best technology in the world compared to US. And can China compete with US and Canada? Well, that's obviously a good question. But when we refer technology, it's a big area, the technology itself. So, for example, if we talk about so for example, just obviously Tesla, they are working to power up the batteries so much that we are kind of probably having all the electronic vehicles in the road in next 10 years. So when, let's say, to talk about the specific electric vehicles, so obviously many countries are already manufacturing, already doing doing more research in this field. So the leading country would be US, Germany, yes, China, and many other countries. So each country has specific contribution, and all the countries have a great advance in from their field. So it's hard to comment whether there is a very best country for technology or not. But yes, obviously China, US, they're doing great for innovation and taking forward the technologies. For example, the Tesla is working for the human so that we can be a multi-planet species. So that's a huge discussion, but just wondering, Ahnav, do you have anything, any inputs on that?
To probably put a pinpoint on a particular country doing the best is would be a bit difficult, I think. The way we in technology have a look at it is we look at the different sort of platforms that are out there and we compare ourselves to it. So to give you an example, we're at the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. We have a very renowned application called the Commonwealth Bank app. So that's the application on Android and iOS devices that we use to manage our finances, for example. So what we do is we compare that against our market competitors. So we don't have to necessarily look abroad. We just have to look domestically to see who is building the best software. And according to that, we try to beat that market. To give you a domestic example, so you have telecom in Bangladesh. So you have Grameenphone, for example. Now they're not going to be trying competing with AT&T and Optus and the different platforms around the world. They will try and compete with Airtel and Banglalink, all the other domestic ones out there. So in the same way, if you're aiming for a particular country or to work in a particular company, such as Microsoft, it's a good idea to look at their competitors. With Google, how are they competing? With Tesla, how are they competing? So look into that particular industry and look at their competitors. I think that's a good way to gauge which companies are doing better than others, as well as to scope out opportunities within that particular industry or field as well. So I think that's a good place to start.
Thanks, Arnav. Shruti, a question to you is approximately how many hours, did you study while you were doing your MBBS?
It actually varies from year to year because you might have, and plus depending on the exams you have. For example, if you have one item, it might take around 4 to 5 hours.
Shruti, you just got muted.
Sorry,
Yeah.
here. Yeah. So if you have a single class test that is an item, then you might need around 4 to 5 hours to just understand the item and then read through it. And then you might have to revise it in the morning. So I'm not including that time, but the evening around 4 to 5 hours minimum.
Great. Yeah. So, students who are intending to study medicine, be prepared for the hard work. And obviously, if your passion lies in the medicine area, so you don't have to worry about the hard work. You'll just enjoy, keep reading and practicing. Right, Shruti?
Yes, sir. That's very right.
Yeah. So one question to Ahnaf is, is it better to understand the coding through watching video or reading books?
Yeah, I just had a quick response to that question as well. I think books, they do get outdated quite quickly. At uni, for example, when we did our 3-year degree, we didn't touch a single book. So we didn't look at a single textbook. We didn't look at a particular recommended textbook, for example. Yes, it was all mainly application. So we were taught certain things from our teachers, and then we would go ahead and do an assignment based on that, or we would go ahead and do an internship, for example. So it's very rare that we had a book that we kind of read and kind of refer to like year on year. Very rare. So I wouldn't have any book recommendations. In terms of video tutorials, again, I just have to go back to the resources I had presented on the slides earlier. So Skillshare, LinkedIn Learning, those again, really good free resources to start because they give you step-by-step modules as to how you can learn a particular area, topic, or a language as well. So I would refer to those. Masum, sorry, if it's okay, maybe we can note down those particular students who have those interests, and maybe we can share those slides with them so they have a reference point and a place to start off with. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Arnav, do you want to type your email ID in the chat box, and Shruti, and they can, probably refer to you directly. Is that okay, Arnav?
Yeah, that sounds good. No problem at all.
Great. So due to shortage of time, we'll just have one more last question to Ahanav is, how difficult is test automation?
Yeah, I did have a response to the question regarding that one. I think it is relatively tough if you are new to it. I would, for someone like me, for example, I'm not really a pure developer. For example, I find test automation difficult. That's probably the short answer. The good answer would be though that it is it's practice makes perfect. The more that you do, the better you'll get at it. And the most important thing is to actually have a good understanding of software development. So if you're a good engineer, for example, you will grab the core concept of test automation very, very well. And another big aspect of it is that it is a very growing field as well. Companies would like to phase out manual testing as much as they can, because number one, it saves money, and number two, it saves resources as well. So it's a growing field. I would definitely recommend to have a look into this, especially that the term test automation. I'm very surprised actually. It's actually a very advanced concept. So definitely check that out in the future. And I think you have good prospects if you're passionate about this field.
Thanks, Arnav. I think one questions I think we should take, last one. I'm studying Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, Bachelor of Computer Science and Engineering at North South University. I'm passing second year, which is 4th semester right now. So beside learning programming languages, should I start doing my research work?
Very good question, and congratulations as well. Your second year, it's a very exciting time. Would I recommend it? Yes, absolutely, because it builds towards your portfolio. So that's something that we have here in IT as well. A portfolio is essentially like a collection of the work that we do. So if your research involves something like building a software, or if it's even just building a report of a limitation in a software, or even at university, if you can identify a particular IT problem that can have a potential solution as well, then it is very recommended that you go ahead and submit a paper. We did those here. We called them industry reports. So after each and every internship that we did, we compiled a 7,000 word report. It sounds like a lot of words, but it's very sort of useful to kind of refer to after it has been compiled. But essentially, the main use of that industry report was that we get, at the end of the day, we have a tangible sort of answer to a potential business problem. So if we can prove that to our managers and the people that we're working for, it gives a sort of really good baseline, and it just proves your abilities as well. So yeah, definitely it leads up to your practical experiences. So big yes to if you go ahead and do any practical portfolio work or assignments.
Great. Thank you so much, Ahnaf and Shruti. Now, Ahnaf and Shruti has typed their email ID in the chat box. Those of you have any further questions or want to learn further, feel free to email them. They will happy to share the resources with you. Now, let me take a moment for the vote of thanks. I would like to thank our Honorable Principal Sir and Vice Principal Sir for taking this great initiative. Their guidance and support have made this event successful. Thanks to our marketing office, IT office for their great support, and special thanks to Dr. Shruti and Ahnaf for taking time to guide their juniors. Audience, we'll keep you updated with our next webinar date and time. Before I say goodbye, I just wanted to ask Principal Sir and Vice Principal Sir if you'd like to say anything before we conclude.
No, I'm so happy that the session went well. So happy to see so many questions coming in from young students. And Ahnaf and Dr. Shruti answered them so well. And Ahnaf, you're awake in the middle of the night to make this happen. I cannot thank you enough. Grateful to you both. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. So with that, let us conclude here. See you all in the next webinar with more alumni. So till then, have a great week ahead. Stay safe, stay well. Bye-bye.